In this world, angels live among us. Many great invincible beings of immeasurable power, a bridge between us and the gods. These creatures are not as you might imagine them. While some are human-like in their appearance, most are alien. A sitting mountain, a giant boar, a hovering sphere. Each of the angels provides a powerful boon to the surrounding area and its inhabitants. They do not speak to us. They do not move. We built our world around them. They shaped our cultures. We rely on them. Until something dark came along. Now, one by one, the angels have been slain. The people of the lands around them slaughtered. A wave of death is spreading across our world. Only a few places remain as a final bastion of life. Only a few against an endless horde of oblivion. And within these few, a single band of unlikely heroes, bound by forces beyond their understanding. In this world, there is only a single word that describes their soul-bound connection.
As you emerge from the tower, you are greeted by a bleak and desolate landscape. It is a cracked, barren wasteland of pale ashen dust that stretches out as far as the eye can see. There are jagged peaks in the distance of mountains that are rising up sharply against the horizon. Their rocky faces are smooth but worn by unknown forces, giving them a sort of unnatural, almost polished appearance. The valleys between them are wide and empty, pockmarked with deep craters and fissures. The air here is heavy with silence as the sounds of the Darrow and the inside of the tower close behind you with the heavy thud of the door. There is a sort of oppressive stillness that presses down on your senses. There's a wind here, but it isn't strong, yet it feels like more than a breeze. Beyond that, really only a void of sound that amplifies the isolation of this place. Peering over one of the distant mountain peaks is an enormous cream-colored sphere that sits sort of partially obscured by the craggy ridges. Its surface is sort of impossibly smooth, and it reflects a sort of faint light, a sort of ethereal glow. It appears to just sort of be sitting behind the mountain range, yet something about its size and perfection make it feel sort of distant and unattainable, like a phantom object suspended in time. The mountainside on which it has landed, falling from its previous suspension, has crumbled and fallen into the valleys below. However, before you is a pathway from the tower all the way along this mountainside and up to a monastery that is built below. A crude and basic limestone structure that's built partially into the mountain beside it, twisting kind of awkwardly upwards and along some of the cliffs. It's a short walk from the tower where you are, but you do have a sort of a little bit of a trek to make across this landscape here. We're going to pick up under the assumption that you've all rested and you're all ready and packed and prepared to head in and begin your search for the angel spear. But first, I need everyone to roll me a d20, please.
I rolled a 2.
A 2. To your senses, and to your eyes in particular, all of them, there is a faint flickering of light constantly, and there will be for the entire time that you are here, within the presence of Elneus, the angel here, the true Elneus, the sphere that's sitting. Light sources for you will shift between subtle hues of blue, red, and cream. And that is how you are perceiving this landscape, sort of regardless of how you might think you're looking at it. 13 for Thrak. You have unbidden thoughts, Thrak. Random thoughts about the undead or death might creep into your mind without explanation and then fade quickly as you are within the presence of Elneus. Jilden got a 14. You are under the effects of language distortion. When speaking, your voice might momentarily distort or echo, and it will constantly sound strange even to you. Oh no, that was Jilden. Sorry. So Jilden got the 14. Do you need me to repeat that? Did you hear it?
Echoing. No.
I have no idea if that was a yes or a no.
I got it.
And Cirrus, you've got an unnatural chill. The temperature will suddenly drop for you. You are experiencing a sort of chilling sensation, despite there being no real discernible source of like that level of cold in this area that is present. So the four of you feel and sense these different things immediately upon leaving the tower and falling under the effects, or the sort of subtle effects of Elneus's presence here. Between the tower and the monastery that you can see built up, there is an unbelievably crude path. Imagine like a Tibetan mountain path, you know, across a mountainscape. There's an idea of a path, but you can see that at the base of the mountain there are some structures, and then you can kind of make out the monastery itself that is built up and into the mountainside from where you are. What are you all doing immediately? What's the plan? Do you have any plan? Are you doing anything specific here at the top of the mountains?
Has anything changed since us coming back when it comes to our, how would you say, lack of inhibitions from the mountain? Fear, indignation, relief?
No, I think because your soul and mind are alive, your body is dead, but your spirit isn't. So I think all of that stuff still remains. Sacrifices and things were given on that sort of level. And that reminds me, actually, I completely forgot to give you all of your abilities, didn't I? Knew there was something. Blame the brand new D&D show starting up on Friday, non-canon, same time as this one. Head on down and join in for a brand new show on Friday, which is exhausting me beyond belief.
To be fair, you did specifically say, remind me to put all the abilities in here tomorrow, and none of us reminded
you. And no one
you.
reminded me. And there was a reason that I said that. The plates I have been spinning over the last 2 weeks are astonishing. And we can blame Wax Steven and Pumpkinberry for that as well, because 2 weeks ago they said, you've got 2 weeks to make a brand new D&D show, go. And I went, but it takes months. And they went, ha 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 ha. And I went, I will quickly grab them for you, and you'll just have to copy paste them or refer to them throughout this yourselves. Good luck. But in the meantime, what are you doing? But to answer your question, no, nothing has changed if that affects what your approach would be.
I don't think I would be the first to step out. I wait.
Yeah, I guess that's me then. I would step out and start heading down the path.
I would follow.
Okay. Everyone else following?
I follow
Yes.
behind.
I sort of feel like I need to constantly check Jilden isn't doing the opposite. Or is like,
Yes, and also, am I aware this is Elneus?
well, yes, because the mirror told
talked
you, I
about it.
think, and you've spoken about it from this point on. So you're aware that it's really only a village and then a kind of mountainscape around it, but the village of Ku is the home of Elneus, the true Elneus, and it is a sphere, and that's where you've travelled to, right? So yeah, I think Jilden's smart enough to deduce that this is Elneus.
And I am following and snatching glances at the real Elneus and looking away, confused.
I remember at the end of last episode, there was a demon that was silhouetted by this large dome, correct?
Yes.
But I don't know if that was from a perspective that we could see, or if it was the camera panning and the audience seeing her. Can we see her?
It is from the perspective of the audience seeing her, but you can make me a perception check.
Okay. A 13.
I don't think you see anything. There might be at the corner of your eye for a moment. You might have thought you saw a flicker of something very distant and small on top of that thing, but there's nothing up there.
Very well.
Can we feel anything that would suggest that this god is alive?
You can make me this is a tough ask. I guess an investigation check or a religion check.
It's an 8 on investigation.
It's pretty difficult for you to know whether this thing is alive or dead. It is literally just a frictionless sphere. But it was once famously hovering above the mountainside and has now crashed into the mountainside. The parts, where it's landed has crushed the mountain, and the mountain has crumbled and fallen underneath it. Parts of the monastery look like they've been affected and cracked and ruined from the impact. I mean, even if this thing was alive, it'd be hard to tell that it was alive. But you would suspect, since it has fallen into the mountainside, that it's dead. But there does seem to be sort of kind of weird residual elements going on, which is not uncommon among these dead angels.
I'd also like to make a perception check. I am specifically looking for the influence of Anuare, because I know her to have copied him.
Yeah, you can make a perception check or an arcana check. Or an insight check.
It's 27 perception.
27. Alright, hold on.
That's almost perfect. That's so close.
Almost. So far, yet so close from greatness.
How do you go about trying to perceive Anawari from Jilden's perspective, I guess, rather than me tell you how you do it.
I've been snatching glances at this thing that I know to be Alneus, looking up, looking away. My eyes are drawn to it consistently, even though I don't know. Or I know that it's not what I thought it was. And at
Yeah.
the same time, in the back of my mind, I have this image of Anawari, the being that was claiming to be Alneus all of this time, all of these feelings I felt for years, for decades, in fact, for Alneus. And I'm... it's less looking and more feeling, I think, at this point.
Okay. There is a feeling. There is a sense that registers for you of a stronger connection to Anawari. Almost, I think, immediately as you step out from the tower door, that washes over you. It isn't like a sonar or anything that you can like pinpoint, but you do definitely feel a much stronger connection here.
Track.
Yes.
Don't need to be mindful around here. I can feel her presence.
Are you quite all right?
First time will tell. I do not know the ways she influences, but she is good at what she does.
You know, the last time we saw a dead god, it was the falcon, the bird. But at that time, it was just a skeleton. I could hardly imagine that would be flying like a skeleton. This white dome we see here, is this too the skeleton of a god? Just a big ball?
Would we even know if it was alive?
Well,
I would like to, now that they're mentioning this, I would like to also reach out and see if I can feel whether it's dead or alive.
Yeah, when you say reach out, you quite literally
I would like
reaching
to-
out? Are you doing your hand to the ground
I'll-
situation?
Yeah, hand to the
getting us
ground,
killed
yeah.
again.
Yeah.
I'm not going into the spirit realm. I'm just I'm just feeling the senses.
Yeah, you can make me a wisdom check.
13.
I think you feel very little connection to this angel.
Yeah.
There's maybe a hint of a connection to Voriel that you subtly sense here. Just due to your sort of innate strong connection with that angel. And almost nothing coming from the one that is right in front of you, which you can interpret to be whatever you wish.
Yeah.
But does sort of lend itself immediately to the idea that this thing is most likely dead.
Okay.
Didn't you once give me, I believe, and I know this is a big ask, trying to remember what you said to me, like, a couple months ago about this angel? You gave me quite a bit of information. What does it do again?
Yeah.
I know it's very mysterious and not very well known, and it's kind of a secret, and people pilgrimage here.
No, you guys have this info. So, this is Elnaeus, the angel of Moonbow. The monastery that was built here was built up to the angel. The angel itself is, the goddess Moonbow is the goddess of the moon, dreams, and transcendence. The monks who live here and some of the people that would have lived in the village, even though really everyone was just a monk. It's an extremely small little area. They spent their time seeking visions through any means necessary, sleeping, tonics, potions, sleep weeds, deep meditation, things like the elven trance. Over many years, the visions that were brought on by the monks here came true. So lots of people that would travel here, if they were aware of it, and generally the sort of neighboring countries, you guys are from pretty far away, would seek guidance from the monks here. However, the monks' visions would tend to lean towards visions to do with the undead. So it became quite a pilgrimage for people who were kind of clerics and paladins, you know, not that there's necessarily classes in the world, but people that lean towards that kind of magic and that kind of lifestyle. Many drow are opposed to the idea of this kind of an angel. So this, in a way, also, Seer, you might have heard about this place because the drow would despise the monks that lived here, and the undead and those that follow Lolth, anyone that would be along those kinds of lines of thinking. And I have to weave in between how I word some of this stuff. Right. Sometimes I think it just sounds like I'm making stuff up on the spot, but I'm looking at my notes, which is just like, this, spoiler, this, don't say that, this, that. But generally speaking, people who were kind of aligned with Lolth, Megwandia, and the sort of those that would have been into things like necromancy. I know that since the appearance of, you know, this new ascended Mordril, the relationship with the undead is different. But before then, it was pretty similar to your standard D&D saying of, you know, a handful of necromancers here, undead here, ghosts, maybe a vampire. Anybody aligned with those things would have despised any of the monks here, because these monks would quite often be able to predict things that would be coming, and they would not only be things to do with the drow, so any drow incursions, or, you know, if the drow ever tried to sort of breach the surface world and raid nearby villages and things, they might find themselves immediately greeted by just an army of paladins, because the monks here would have led them with a vision. So there's a sense that Elneus and Megwandia, or Moonbow and Lolth, were at odds with one another, because quite often the visions would be to do with drow things. However, mostly they were to do with undead things. So again, this is a secret place, however, so I don't think that it's like it was common knowledge for the drow, otherwise they would have just stormed this place and killed everyone here. That being said, it was kind of quietly protected over the years by lots of like paladins and orders from the nearby and neighboring kingdoms. The angel itself, Elneus, is just a perfect sphere that would float above the tallest peak of the tallest mountain. The color of Elneus would shift between blues and reds, but predominantly would remain cream in color. Elneus it was actually close enough to the mountain peak that you could climb up to it and touch it if you wanted to. People did so, the monks did so, and they would leave marks on it from paint or chalk or charcoal, but they would attempt to mark it, but they couldn't. There would be no marks left on this thing. And also to touch, it's entirely frictionless. So if you imagine how that feels to touch this just fully frictionless thing. The Angel was also only visible to the extent that the moon was. So during a full moon, Elnaeus was fully corporeal. During a half moon, the angel was translucent. And when the moon was missing, Elnaeus couldn't be seen. Elnaeus also couldn't really be seen very well during sort of daylight hours if the sun was out and very powerful. Sia, roll me a d24. Let's find out what time of day it is for you all. As your final clue.
It is 2 in the afternoon.
2 in the afternoon, and this thing is fully visible. And I think generally that was all the information that you had about this thing.
Did you say that I'm getting some sort of visions or dreams or something?
Yeah, you.
My role.
Right, you were suffering.
Echoes of undead or something. You mentioned.
Yeah, thoughts of dead and undead, and death based. It basically my intrusive thoughts in real life.
Right. Oh, okay.
Death based intrusive
I'm not getting
thoughts.
like visions of the undead though.
No, you're not having full blown
Okay.
visions. You're just having kind of
Mental breakdown.
little bizarre thoughts. Your thoughts would linger on the undead and on death, and little additional moments would think about it. I mean, it probably wouldn't be too different to how you've been thinking anyway, because you have been being chased by an undead thing, and there's lots of undead everywhere.
Yeah,
but
they're
essentially-
standing all around me.
right. Oh yeah, kind of.
Hi.
Also, I put the things into our chat there. These are all the things you have, and since we did do another long rest, you need to roll me a d6. The 3 of you that are currently occupying your forms rather than actually fully living in them.
A 6.
I rolled a 5.
A 1.
Right, so this is the unstable connection. Your body being technically dead is not fully responsive to your soul's commands. Each day when you finish a long rest, roll a d6. On a roll of 1 or 2, you suffer a penalty. So that's just Jill then. So you roll another d6 to determine which attribute is affected.
3.
Constitution. You have disadvantage on constitution-based checks and saving throws until your next long rest.
That's not an important one.
Yeah, that'll work out just fine for you, I think.
We're going into a dungeon, I reckon. I'm sure it'll be fine.
Does that mean that the effects that we had the last session where we
Wear
had
off.
penalties are gone?
Yep.
Okay. Cool.
Here we go. So you have unbidden thoughts. I'll write this in here for you as well if you want. Random thoughts about the undead or death creep into your mind without explanation, then fade quickly. Thrack.
Yeah, I've been method acting for this role for
Yeah.
these 7 years.
Unnatural chill, which was Cirrus.
Yes.
Faint or flickering light for Sia. And Jilden's got
While-
hers down. It was the
How close are we to the
reverberate.
village? Are we like right here? Or are we a bit away?
it's like if you had to guess, it's maybe about a mile away, so maybe 20 minutes or so on foot to just get between the tower and the village, the beginning of the village.
Alright. Just gonna keep on walking. I think, to me, it's pretty obvious that this angel is dead. I don't need to do any rolls.
Wouldn't you want a piece of dead angel?
Or
Like the falcon.
yeah, it was a vulture.
The bird.
A buzzard.
We are on the way to it. I'm unsure if it's possible to take a piece of this particular angel. It may be impervious, even in
Well,
death.
I mean, if an overgrown chicken gave us so much strife before, I can only imagine what this might be like.
Well, Jack has learned much since then. Perhaps it will be different.
Perhaps. So, we are to collect this spear, I take it. That's why we're here.
Yes, and we
Yes.
are in a hurry. So,
Very well. In that case, I'll reach into my pocket and I shall pull out yet again my compass. The one same that allowed me to find where this was or what direction it was. And now, this will be useful, but I can only use it once a day. I haven't really worked out all the kinks, but it should tell us where this thing is, if it is indeed up this mountain where this place is. And so I pull out my Seeker's Compass.
Yeah, remind me of the rolls on that thing.
I shall indeed once I find our DM, right? And I
No,
find...
it's very quicker for me to look for it.
I found it. So, a compass inside of an otherwise nondescript wooden case. Inside, blah, blah. If you hold the compass and concentrate on a person, object, or location for 1 minute, the compass will point to approximately that direction until it's closed again. If the concentration isn't specific enough, then it'll have to be an idea. So yeah, I don't think there are any checks. It's just a matter of concentration, and it'll just point to where it is until I close it.
Okay. How do you envision this thing then?
Well, in our quaint little fireplace, I did see a spear being held by the avatar, this manifestation of our beloved dragon friend. And so, I think to myself, the spear. However, of course, knowing that it's not that what I'm thinking of, I also kind of focus on the words of the mirror, the words that were spoken to us by our Goliath friend as well about what this is supposed to be or look like.
You concentrate on it and you look down at the compass and it just spins real quick. Just starts spinning and spinning and spinning. Your daily use of this is not consumed, however.
Odd. I shut it, I close it down, and I go, well, I guess that's out of the equation. Lead the way then.
The spear, it's is it more of a arcane relic or a religious relic?
Religious.
Would we know we're religious? I would like to put my hand on the ground again and see if I can feel for it.
Give me a wisdom check.
11. Dang. These guys
Again,
got
it
hands.
is Yeah, it's another sort of lack of sensation, really. A sort of subtle connection, maybe with Voriel. A subtle sense of sacrament in this sort of sacred land, but you get no sense or concept of whether there is a spear here or anywhere else, and whether you can kind of locate it.
Okay. I do not feel anything, but it is a different land, so perhaps that is confusing my connection.
Well, luckily we have our 2 feet. At the very least, we may as well check out this place. See if there are any signs of this.
Okay, you're heading
Yes.
in. The walk begins, a short walk from the tower over to the base of the mountain ahead of you. As a 4, we see you come to a sort of small ruined village of very simple huts that wind up this path. There's really not much to it. It's a handful of huts that have all been destroyed. You get the sense that they were trampled as whoever lived here left, rushed out, or maybe was turned, and zombies kind of trudged from this place, heading down the mountainside to join the hordes that are washing across Gaia. There doesn't appear to be any left. There are no snapping zombies or any of the sort of terrifying lizard folk that you've come to face before that make up the majority of the hordes. But there's really nothing left of this village either. I think we'll see you kind of move through this decimated village and continue your ascent along this path and up the stone steps that carry you into the courtyard of the monastery. And this monastery sits built into the mountainside. You can see that there are places where it breaches the mountain once more, coming back out, and you can see the top of the mountain. This isn't a Voriel-sized mountain either. This is a pretty large set of cliffs and peaks. But you get the sense you're already on the peak of a mountain, and then you've got these smaller parts that they've built in and around. If you look out even further, the miles and miles around you, it's just endless mountainscapes, but you also get the feeling of like elevation. You're already up, way up on top of a huge set of mountains. You're just muddling among the peaks of these mountains. And the monastery is in sort of full view with Elnaeus mostly behind it. You wander up this path and into the courtyard of this monastery. Again, this is a relatively rudimentary structure. It's definitely a different architectural style to what you've seen built up and around Voriel and in other places of the world that you've visited. But it is still pretty plain and basic. Most of the stone here is kind of cream colored. It might be that it was painted. It might be that it was limestone. You get the sense more likely that it was some sort of white stone first, with the weather beating look to a lot of the parts of the mountain and the structures here. But the courtyard itself is a kind of large, silent, open air space surrounded by some of the mountain in a natural set of sort of towering stone walls. It's almost like stepping into a bit of a quarry. The floor has been chiseled and masoned into sort of ancient looking stone slabs, many of which worn down by time. At the far end is a towering monastery door, which is huge and seems to be sort of heavily sealed, featuring engravings of celestial symbols across its surface, and notably a very large looking. At first, it might look as if they've sort of crafted Elneus, but you recognize actually that it is in fact the moon. Now, the moon is, and Gaia has a moon just like ours. There are no binary things going on. We just have it's a similar thing. Gaia is a smaller planet, but it does have a moon, and it has the same phases of a moon as we would have here on Earth, because I'm extremely unoriginal. I didn't think about that until 3 or 4 minutes before the stream went live. It's not true. The moon has always been extremely important. I just know some people take everything I say literally.
It's me.
But we have a moon on Gaia that's just it works in exactly the same way as ours does on Earth. In this courtyard is a series of 8 large stone pedestals arranged in a circular pattern in the center of the courtyard. And at the center of those is a basin, a stone basin, which is filled with remarkably clean water, considering the fact that this is an abandoned and ancient looking place. Each of these pedestals around the basin of water has a sort of stone disc embedded on top of it, with an engraving of one of the 8 phases of the moon, going clockwise from 12 o'clock being a new moon all the way around to a waning crescent. What do you do? I'll give you a sort of a vague visual representation of the door if you'd like, just to get your brain juices flowing.
I
This is
look
the
around
kind of
to
idea.
see if there are any traps. I'm not distrustful of this place, but places like this, their reputation precedes them in secrecy and all sorts of other things. Also, if there's any writing, elven or otherwise, I keep my eyes out just in case, because signage is important, at least to me.
Yeah, give me a perception or an investigation check.
A 9.
A 9.
The
All
best roll
throughout the
ever.
walk as well, I would say, like as you move through the ruined village, you didn't really notice any signage. Again, it's a very simplistic looking place. It doesn't feel like this was even probably at its height of populace. Would have been very sort of advanced technologically. But there isn't really any signage, and you don't recognize any script at all, in fact, anywhere. There are really only the engravings on the monastery door that are sort of celestial symbols, but by celestial symbols I don't mean like angels and gods. I mean sort of actual sort of lunar cycles and astrological symbols. This world has its own sort of sets of what are those things called in astrology where you move the stars. You make little drawings out of stars, right? And you have like the bow and arrow or whatever. I can't remember what they're called, the Big Dipper and stuff. This world would have, what are they called?
Constellations.
Constellations, yeah. So this world has constellations that are all named after angels and things. So you'd have like Elneus's shifts, and you'd recognize some of those, I think, on this door, but you don't see any really any scripture in any sort of obvious language. There's also no real like notable sort of cultural, architectural things that feel like, it doesn't feel necessarily very elven. It doesn't feel Goliath, and it doesn't feel like this was made by orcs. It sort of just has its own vague, rudimentary style. On top of that, you make a glance about for any sort of traps or anything that seems like it might be a danger or some sort of mechanical thing that could pop out and dissuade intruders, but you don't sense anything here. While it was only a 9, you also get the sense that you are pretty sure there aren't any obvious traps here. If they are, they're incredibly complex and hidden extremely well.
Right. In which case, I remain vigilant, keeping my eye out in case anyone approaches as my compatriots look at this ruin, this door.
I suspect that I probably would have been. You want?
I don't know why he did that.
I suspect
we were about, okay.
What were we about to do? What were we about to do?
We were just about to talk at the same time, and then we did it again. So we'll never complete this episode. Might as well end it now.
Okay.
Yeah. I know the stars and
want
stuff
to
because I
interrupt
probably
too.
looked at them. Oh God. I know the constellations surely from my long life studying religion.
Mm-hmm.
So, can I? Do I recognize them? I probably do. Right?
Yeah, probably. Give me, I guess, a religion check with advantage.
The funniest thing is that when Orcish actually eventually speaks, he's going to be like, I know the solution, and I just... 23.
Yeah, you totally recognize all of them. Is there something in particular you wanted to draw from it?
Yeah, like an answer to if there's like a puzzle. Like, is there any? Are they out of place? Is there anything that is like strange, or is it literally just charted exactly as it would be in the sky, and this is really more of like decoration?
Yeah, you get the sense that the constellations themselves are more like decoration, right? So you'd see one that is like a winding twisting form that is that you would recognize as the serpent, and then you see another one that is sort of they always look nothing like what they look like to me. There's just like 2 lines that are joined, and that's called the dancer. And it's just, you recognize them all, but you get the sense that these are constellations. 2 reasons that these are decorations. One, they're sort of around the door itself rather than placed very carefully, like how the basins are, or how the moon is depicted at the center of the door. These are kind of like haphazardly placed on there, and you also get the sense that some of them were created later on, like way after the door, and they've been added over time. The second being that let's imagine you're a DM of a campaign and you've come up with like a puzzle for a door. You'd probably know that if the constellations were part of it, the word constellations. I wouldn't have to ask. So those are the 2 things that really are a clue for you, that the constellations themselves are nothing to do with gaining access.
DM? What's going on? What's happening?
They're totally decoration.
Okay, cool. I relay this information back to everyone. And then I look at Thrak, because Thrak had his mouth open right as I began to look at something.
That's right, he did.
Yeah, I tried to push the door open.
Okay, give me an athletics check.
Has anyone checked if it was locked? I was just checking if it's locked. I don't think we've done that.
No, you guys just walked in, looked at a bunch of pedestals, a water-filled basin, and some constellations, a new word that I've discovered today.
Good for you, buddy.
Thank you.
Put that up on the
I learned
fridge.
1 word today. Myre learned 50% of the entire Warhammer 40k lore that has ever existed.
I got a 6 with athletics.
Yeah, a 6.
Very
So this
impressive.
door is absolutely ginormous. There's a sort of vague idea of what it might look like on the screen if you are watching and looking. That is probably about 20 feet tall, and is just like solid stone. So as Thrak steps up to this door and maybe puts a shoulder to it and two large orcish hands pushing, you feel very little give in this door as you attempt to push this thing. It is absolutely ginormous.
Okay. Does it feel like it's locked, or is it just really heavy?
I guess give me a
Roll.
perception or maybe give me a perception check.
23.
I think you get the sense that it's just really heavy.
I look to Jilden. Do you have the ability? Perhaps we need to make the reflection of the moon in the water. And I point to the pedestal where the water is.
I don't think I have anything that might help with this.
Yeah. Can I attempt to control the shape of my sacred flame?
Yeah.
Okay. I would like to cast Sacred Flame and see if I can make it into a sphere to hang over the water just for a moment. I mean, Sacred Flame is not, it's not like it's hanging around or anything, but just anything to give a reflection in the water.
Yeah. I'll let you flavor that however you want. It's not a particularly massive and powerful spell, but it creates this kind of radiant flame over this particularly clean water. It does reflect the light off of the water, and you get this kind of, because it is a very large basin of water. It's a relatively clear day. The sun is coming down, but there is a reflection on the water that is, it dapples the pedestals, it dapples the door, and then the sacred flame goes out. You're able to kind of create this brief set of water reflections across the landscape. This courtyard is a bit of a circular shape in itself, but it's partially made out of the mountain side itself, so it's not like they've made walls, they just have the naturally occurring part of the mountain as a good section of it.
Am I able to sense that we are alone? And if not, are there any remains, bodies, signs of, the impending wash of the undead?
Yeah, give me a perception check. Unless you have some other bullshit, which I know that you potentially do.
As a monk, no. All I can do is fight. 19.
You do have a thing now.
Oh yes, I have special
You
bullshit.
can perceive the veil between the living and the dead.
Oh, okay. I mean, I'd like to maybe perhaps also see if I can see if there's anything here that's not here in the immaterial, I suppose.
Yeah, it gives you advantage on perception checks. So,
Okay.
yeah, roll with advantage.
19.
19. Within 60 feet. You actually get the sense that there aren't any undead things here. There aren't any invisible creatures here. and that there isn't anything necessarily lurking and waiting to get you. Exactly. There's a slight sense of unease that is unshakable because of the nature of this empty, quiet place that the world is slowly becoming. But I think everyone apart from Jilden would feel as though there is really nothing additional here that's, specifically waiting and lurking to get you or following you. It does just feel like, while creepy, very empty.
Right.
I looked at Cirrus. Are you satisfied?
I'm not sure. The reflections did seem to go around in a way that makes me believe it could be possible, but
Let me try. I forgot. And I conjure the flaming sphere that I forgot I could do.
A flaming sphere.
Yes.
A
It is a
spell flaming
5-foot
sphere.
diameter sphere of fire.
Okay, where are you conjuring it?
Directly where Cirrus had her sacred flame.
Yeah, this is a little different, I think, because of the nature of it being kind of, while still arcane fire, normal looking fire, rather than kind of very radiant looking fire. But you create this large sphere of fire above that water. A few moments later, the water underneath begins to maybe bubble a little and steam. The fire itself creates lesser or less obvious reflections in the water, as well as a few extra shadows to the surroundings. But you get a similar effect. There are some reflections that run off of the water and dapple the landscape and kind of give that watery, mirrored watery look to some parts of the courtyard. Some of the light landing on the stone pedestals that are around this basin, some of it maybe reaching the door. No immediate change or anything. The door doesn't slide open, no one jumps out at you, anything like that.
Perhaps one might have to wait until actual night for the moon to show before this door opens.
yes, but we don't have time.
No, I know we don't have time.
I cast knock.
Okay. Now knock unlocks a door, right?
A knock will unlock a regular lock. If there's more than one, it only unlocks the one. If it's a magical lock, it dispels it for 10 minutes. And if the door is stuck, it unsticks the door.
Give me the words.
I'll give you the words.
Give me the words.
WD-40.
Oh, it's WD-40, the spell.
The W stands for wizard.
D stands for damage.
And the 40 stands
40
for...
stands for.
Go on.
How
Um,
old Orcish
I had
is.
a new obsession.
Yeah,
Wow.
you cast this spell, and you get the sense that the door, because you're standing right next to it, right? Maybe still have a hand on it or something like that.
Uh-huh.
This huge thing kind of rumbles underhand.
Okay. It
It's
rumbles.
rumbling?
I'll try to push it.
Okay.
Yeah, I would come and help try to push it as well.
Does it have hinges? Is it a push door or a sliding door?
It's really hard to tell from this side. It just looks like two giant slabs of stone in a door frame of stone. Give me an athletics check with advantage. I'll tell you what, Thrak, give me an athletics check with advantage. Actually, which one of you has a
Okay.
higher athletics score?
I have a 3.
I have a 2.
Yep, Thrak.
14.
Cirrus and Thrak begin pushing the door very easily. Between the two of them, it begins to move backwards. It doesn't really have hinges, it moves along a groove in the ground, and as you guys push it, you're able to push it backwards and into place, allowing and gaining you access to this temple.
Perhaps we should just try that first next time.
Can I
You mean
study?
using the front door? Yes.
Can I study the weave and see if it was an arcane lock?
Yeah, you can also just look now that you're on the inside and figure it out without needing to access the weave. It's entirely up to you. You can make me an investigation check or an arcana check.
I'll lean on my strengths here. 21. For arcana.
21. Yeah, no, this is not a magical door. You just needed to push harder than an athletics check of 6.
Doors will forever be the most difficult boss in D&D.
Truly.
Excellent. Okay.
The doorway pushes open, and it reveals very inside. It is dark. There isn't any light. There is no torches lit, and there is no sort of natural light sources coming in from maybe the windows that aren't here. The there's no sound. There's nothing comes rushing out at you or anything like that. You do get the sense that the inside of this is quite empty. As you step inside, there is a very long corridor that actually seems as though it's getting narrower the further you look down this corridor, and it seems to be lined with broken mirrors on both sides, running all the way along this corridor from the opening that you can see to the pitch black darkness at the far end of it. Very undecorative, really just the stone, masoned and flattened, rather than being just pure mountainside. Like it's a little similar to stepping into Voriel in that they really did not. The reasoning behind Voriel is they tried not to sort of chip away at the natural parts of Voriel's mountain rather than the angel parts of him, which are completely invincible and can't be chipped away at. So they didn't want to, just chisel these things into Voriel. So for the most part, Voriel is pretty untouched as well. They burrowed some networks of chambers and hallways, but really that was it. And it's a pretty similar sensation as you step into this one. Again, another mountain, a different type of stone and rock, but just know you might expect a lot of fanfare and certain masonry here, but it is just a kind of a black tunnel with these broken pieces of mirror that have been affixed in varying different ways. Some parts hanging down, some parts sort of held to the wall with adhesives, some parts kind of nailed in. Just a strange hallway stretches out before you. Those of you with dark vision can see relatively well down this corridor, and I think, is it just you, Jilden, who doesn't have dark vision?
Yep.
I believe so. I have
And
superior.
You get a
vision.
few feet of light from coming in from the daylight, and then it's just pitch darkness.
I think
Is there
instinctively.
water? She can swim good.
There is no water in here.
And hold her breath for a long, long time. But
Now that I
instinctively,
actually can do.
so can I now that I'm dead. But I will have placed one palm up to the sky, and I would have contorted my other hand onto it into the shape roughly of a spider, and pushed my hand forward. As I do so, 4 spider-shaped creatures seem to come out of the shadow of my hand. These large fist-sized violet spiders crawl out in front of me in a 4 and then their abdomens light up. This is my dancing lights, and there'll basically be a runway strip for our turtle friend who can't see.
Okay, lights up. Those of you with dark vision, that shifts back to the kind of normal visible spectrum as the dancing lights. Cantrip creates lanterns along this hallway, reflecting off of the mirrors on the walls as well, granting a little more light. But you can now clearly see this sort of long hallway that begins to get narrower and narrower ahead of you, maybe 60, 70 feet in length. You can maybe see the end of it as well. There is a chamber, a circular chamber at the other end. Nothing ominous standing in there, just a plain looking chamber with a central pillar.
Are there is there any remnant of there having been clerics here? Any bodies or hints that there were people here at the monastery?
Yeah, give me a perception check.
23.
23. There is a sort of thin coat of dust along the floor. Maybe you lean down just to see. No footsteps, no disturbance to it, suggesting nobody has been through here in some time. There aren't any corpses, there aren't any bones, any bodies, none of these sort of desiccated corpses that you've come across in other places in the world. Nothing. In fact, you haven't seen any from the entrance of the village all the way up to here.
Is there any... So we're in a place of worship. So is there any literature or items or, relics or anything? Is there like a book, even just listing the people who are meant to be here, that sort of thing?
In this corridor or in your
yeah.
History, as in you're looking literally in this corridor for stuff like that?
Yeah, I'm gonna start moving forward and look for whatever I can find. Like now that I've realized, put two and two together, I've been like, wait, there's supposed to have been people here and there's dust and everything. I'm now looking for evidence of when the last time someone was here.
Yeah, there is nothing in this corridor. It's completely plain aside from the mirror hangings. But it is also just an entrance tunnel, so...
Yeah. Okay.
When one of my light spiders crawls up towards these mirrors, does anything happen? Is there a reflection of this light? Is there some other way this place is meant to be lit? It's a dark corridor. I know most folk do have dark vision, but otherwise, are there sconces on the walls or any other indication as to how this place was meant to be lit up?
There are no sconces on the walls. Normally there would be sconces or, remains of torches, maybe some fires and things. None at all on this wall. There is actually no obvious way to light this place. There isn't even maybe some just odd orbs on the ceiling that would potentially be magically lit or something like that. It is just this stone and the mirrors ahead of you.
Okay.
I suspect it has something to do with the moon and its light.
Likely. You are more in your element than I am here, of a sort.
Well, places like this would be built to bring you closer to the angel, closer to your god. So any opportunity to connect in any way. The light, for example. If all corridors were lit only by the light of the moon, it would be a way for the clerics to connect to such power.
Well, I suppose they are a little close for comfort now. But that aside, I look past my party down into the corridor. What again was there in front of us?
Really just the corridor. It gets a little thinner at the other end. Mirrors on either side, and at the very far end you can make out just on the edge of the light the first chamber, clearly a sort of circular room with a single column at the center of it.
Very well.
I'm going to begin walking towards the chamber.
Okay.
Down the corridor.
Everyone following?
Yes.
Remind me again, you mentioned something about the way Elnaeus was visible in the moonlight?
Correct.
And he's...
Yeah, Elnaeus is as visible as the moon is. So not in the sense that if there was a crescent moon, you would only see a crescent of Elnaeus. You would just see almost like a gradient or a transparency of how much Elnaeus was visible based on how much of the moon was in the current cycle. So a full moon, you'd see it very clearly, and just a no moon.
And he's visible right now.
Fully visible, 2 in the
on the
afternoon.
ground.
On the
Yeah.
ground, yeah.
Yes, I follow the party.
Anybody look in the mirrors?
I wasn't
I've had
sure
enough
how
experience
either
with
way.
mirrors.
I would have been looking in them, yeah. Yes.
The reflection in the mirror of yourself and the rest of the party is as if you were undead versions of yourselves, sort of taut skin peeling from skeletal frames.
What about Thrak?
What about Thrak?
Yeah.
Thrak as well.
Oh.
What does
Interesting.
Thrax see?
Thrak, you look in the mirrors too?
I might. Maybe.
If you sort of glance over and then maybe take a double take as you see a bizarre reflection, you'd see the same thing.
I touched the mirror.
Just a mirror. Feels like a mirror. Cold to the touch.
Smudge it. Alright.
Leaves a fingerprint.
And all of them reflect the same thing.
Yeah.
It's a shame we have nothing dead on us to see what it shows up as.
Did you bring Wriggle with you? Might be a bit late
Did we
to
bring
ask that
Sprout
question.
with us?
Wriggle was on Thrax's shoulder, yes. So
He was,
did
but I don't
Wriggle
know if-
willingly come with us?
I sort of like cutscened you through the last little bit of the session last week because we were running a bit late.
I wouldn't make him stay behind, and I don't think that he'd want to.
Right.
Because wait, which one is it? Is it Thor's that he?
He thinks Thor's
Yeah,
is more
Thor's
ground.
is in there.
In which case, Wriggle is probably curled around Thrax's shoulders on that Yeti pelt, and even Wriggle looks kind of like a weird, twisted, undead version of himself.
What about Sprout? That should still be on Jilden's shell, our old dead stumpy friend. Is it still a dead
Will
tree?
it have... I feel like it had fallen off long ago by now, considering everything.
Yeah,
Well,
do you still have it?
nothing violence happened. I mean,
I
like,
fell over and got dragged over into the tower and then thrown into a corner. I think If it's anywhere, it's in the corner of the tower.
The camera cuts back to a Darrow picking it up and
Eating
eating it.
Ooh, what's that thing?
Delicious.
Oh, love the finger legs.
Another one swings from a chandelier, falling off of it, a crash in the background. And then we snap back to you guys walking through this corridor. Undead reflections of yourselves following you along. Nothing happens. I know that's scary, but nothing jumps out at you. There aren't any specters that rush at you or anything like that. You're simply able to proceed through and into. Yeah.
Am I able to sense undead? Looking at this mirror with my newfound power, am I able to sense whether or not this is some illusion or actually a creature looking back at me as me?
Yeah, there is no sense of it being an undead. You don't get that kind of sonar of an undead off of yourself. Seems as if it's more likely just a very simple enchantment on the mirrors.
Right. It's that attic in Red Dead.
Yeah, it's the attic from Red Dead. Frank, you can make me an intelligence or a history check. Make me a history check if you want.
Okay. A 19.
You get the sense without really having to even be concerned about these mirrors that it is just a really basic enchantment that is designed to reflect an undead version of yourself, presumably hinting at something to do with the fact that the monks here have the visions about the undead, or maybe it's something to have them acknowledge their mortality to a degree, but it isn't anything to be concerned about. There isn't a curse or anything.
So when I see Ed touch the mirror, I just say, it appears to be a simple enchantment. It makes everyone look undead. Nothing to worry about.
I see. DM, with my background in studying religions and such, the fact that these people would want to see themselves as undead going down into this place, would I know why they would do such a thing? Or have any inclination as to why they would do such a thing?
I think based on the information that you have, this is a I'm just gonna go ahead and put yourself on the map. Alright, never mind. Don't worry about it.
Sorry.
No, really glad you did that.
Sorry. No. No.
Let me put you in. This is why I was bringing you over here anyway. Let me just...
No patience.
I mean, unbelievable, to be honest. Never again. You'll never see him in another one of my campaigns.
Well, we already knew that was true.
Alright, you're in a dungeon. I was just going to sort of wrap up this first bit and then move on to the second part, but we can do 2 and then 1 first because everyone loves that so much.
Absolutely functional group, by the way. Functioning completely.
You can see this, yeah. You can all see the map right now. Maybe Jordan can't. Don't know.
I can see myself. I see a small dot where I am. That's
you're a little
good enough.
I'm
gonna throw myself in this hole, if that's alright.
I'm just glad that you weren't you didn't just drag yourself on at a different part. I'm so glad that I had the foresight to bring the entire map down to the opening, and then you dragged yourself into that, because you could have dragged yourself into the final room and ruined fucking everything. Thankfully, you didn't.
Yeah, that's great.
Close call.
I'm actually at this point in my sort of DMing career, I'm kind of a little ahead of it. Everything on maps are hidden now. you would still have ruined probably like a good portion of it, but
Mm-hmm.
everything is fucking hidden, because
Oh, good.
if there's one thing I've learned, it is fuck these players, dude. they will fuck everything up. Everything. Just be prepared for that to happen, and then you know
Mhm.
you never need to worry about it. So to see his question, generally this is anybody that comes here, any pilgrimage that you make to this monastery is likely one to do with seeking visions, or dreams, and transcendence are also kind of an element to this thing. So being shown a reflection of your own mortality, or seeking visions of the undead, is really presumably why they have those mirrors there. It is unlikely that you would just be wandering in here by yourself. It's much more likely that a monk would have greeted you at the gate and brought you through, and would probably be rolling off some spiel about Alnaeus and visions and dreams and Moonbow, but having to interpret for yourself, you would presume that it would be something like that for them. But I mean, since there isn't really anyone to show you through, you wouldn't know exactly. But I'm just going to give you the sort of benefit of the doubt of the understanding of the world. You know, you can piece some of it together. Eventually, Thrak runs into it, but you know, rushing ahead of everyone suddenly, followed slowly by the rest of you, moving at a an adult pace. You Thrak runs in and does that thing where he skids on his knees across the hall, like little kids do. You wander into the entrance chamber of the monastery here, and it is coming out from that little corridor. You move into a sort of grand space. Now here, there is more attention paid to the sort of architecture and the masonry. Again, it is pretty rudimentary. This map that I've provided you with makes it seem maybe a little better masoned than it probably actually is, but pretty hard to find the exact thing sometimes. It is a circular room with a single huge stone column at the center of it. The column at the center of this stretches up to a vaulted ceiling, and the column and the ceiling are etched with the same sort of celestial iconography seen at the entrance on the doorway. The room is divided into sort of two levels, a lower level, which feels very much like an entrance chamber where maybe visitors were brought in, and then a sort of a slightly upper level where a small staircase would lead you up, where maybe people were given sermons, or maybe they were introduced to things, or maybe in smaller groups such as yours, or somebody would have been stood up there to guide you through this place and give you some information and history on the monastery itself, but really at this point just serves as an empty and open chamber for the entrance. The floor here is just sort of more of that pale stone, smooth but cracked in places, worn. You get the sense actually of sort of centuries of neglect, not neglect as in they purposefully neglected it, but just that there weren't really any masons in this monastery. It's probably home to only a handful of the monks that lived here, as opposed to it being like a big and bustling place. Even the temple in Moon to Voriel has, for a pretty small village and town of Moon, there's a pretty huge amount of clerics that move and work through Voriel. They're all very religious. The small town and village outside of this with those small huts suggested there was only a handful of people that lived here in total, and then maybe a few inside this monastery. So there is a pretty decent sense of neglect. There are some old-looking kind of statues in parts of here that aren't really depicted on this map of monks that are in prayer. They seem to be doing something where they hold one hand to one shoulder, the left hand to the left shoulder and then one up while their faces gaze upwards. Seems to be kind of the prayer stance for these monks. Again, neglected looking pale stone statues, but you still get the idea. At the very top of this room, where there are some constellations depicted, there's a sense that maybe once upon a time this room actually did have the ability to hold something like chandeliers or like rudimentary sconces down that would have maybe held light sources, but neither the chandelier or the sconce itself remains, just some kind of iron prints that were left behind. Again, more dust, Cirrus, as you look about. You don't get the sense that anyone or anything has been through here in a little while. There are a handful of sort of faded banners that you can see down 2 corridors that lead off from this. There are 3 corridors in total, one that you came from with the mirrors, and 2, one, let's just say, heading left and one heading right. Some banners in there, very faded looking, probably once vibrant, embroidered with more of the celestial symbols and motifs. These ones pretty obviously, I think, to all of you sort of represent both life and death. And the chamber itself has that general feel of a kind of a holy place, yet again abandoned. Again, nothing jumps out at you, there's no sounds that are obviously echoing down the halls, and it doesn't feel like the type of ancient temple that is filled with traps and Indiana Jones like stones about to rush down the corridors at you. It just feels like this was once a bustling temple, probably a little over a year ago, and is no longer. No sense of anyone here, no corpses, no bones, nothing that suggests anyone died in here either. What do you do?
I think I'm kind of hyper focusing on the fact that there's no bodies and there's no one here, which tells me either something happened to their bodies or they were taken somewhere, or they went somewhere of their own volition, which may indicate to me that they were aware of what was about to happen, and like vacated or something. That's kind of like the way that I'm thinking. I'm strangely interested in what happened to the clerics here. So I'm gonna continue as we like move through these rooms and stuff. I'm gonna look for any signs of struggle, any sorts of like any signs that things have been knocked over, or anything written down, journals or diary entries or anything as we move through. That's kind of what I'm paying attention to at the moment.
Yeah, okay. I will try and be aware of it and remember, and that carries
I
over
will
to
ask
next
as
week
we move on. Yeah. Oh yeah.
as well. But yes, yeah.
Just write that down
there
and
is
say it first thing.
there is very obviously nothing like that in this chamber. You can see that the chamber splits. Again, one route heading, we'll call it left, one heading right, into 2 further circular chambers ahead of you. I think, I guess it depends on what you're doing with the dancing lights. You can move them, right? You just kind of moving them around.
I can move them per turn, and they're just there for Jilden's sake. But I look towards this fissure in the ground that we walked past to get in here. And I am curious about this because within this very pristine place, there were no signs of a break into this place. And it seems more or less unspoiled from whatever's going on outside. So I'm curious as to what caused this. I think I'll look up first to see if something had dropped down into this chasm.
Yeah, give me an investigation check.
Okay. In Investigation check coming right up, Funk. So, brother, right about. That's insight. Investigation, there we go. 21 for a natural 20.
Natural 20. Yeah, try not to take this map too literally, because it is kind of a bit of a representation that I had to slap together. But this isn't like a full-blown like hole in the ground that goes down to the other end of the, down into the hollow earth and King Kong's down there knocking about. It's more just kind of an idea and representation that this place is and has probably been for some time kind of falling slowly to ruin, as if maybe once a long time ago the monks that resided here and worked in prayer towards Elneus and Moonbow probably built this place, and it was incredible, and then no one ever touched it again, even while they were moving and living and working and being monks in here. There is, however, a significant piece of damage in this chamber. You looking at it would get the sense that it was probably once there's a missing monk statue here. There isn't really one on this side of the room where you see this damaged piece of the floor. You get the sense that probably one of those large stone statues fell over once and just decimated a piece of this floor right at the entranceway and was never attended to. The statue itself was probably long ago moved out, but the damage to the floor was never attended to. Once again, just kind of, I think, giving you more of an idea that this place was just they didn't really spend a lot of time working on fixing the damaged masonry or the effects of time withering away some of this. Again, there are those celestial patterns and symbols and things, and rather than re-etch and fix some of the ones that are older, they would just make new ones in another area of the wall. So I think that's kind of the sense you get from this, rather than it being the sense that there is a dragon secretly lurking in this dungeon waiting to get you.
And forgive me if you have already explained it, but did we come down these stairs here just north of us, or did we enter from this
Yeah, no,
south
you
area?
came from the southern one. Yeah, so this is
All right.
the other ways out of here for you are left and right.
Okay. In which case, if my party aren't doing anything else, I think I'll probably start gravitating towards the right.
I did
Just
have a
to look.
question. Sorry,
Mhm.
Seer,
Of
do you
course.
relay that information to us? That you just
You
got
probably hear
about
me
the-
say, "What a
Yeah.
shithole," is what you'd hear me say. And
What do you mean?
likely, well, just look at this place. It's fallen to ruin before its time. I highly doubt that the people who worshipped that moon out there lived elsewhere. It's just shoddy, is all.
shoddy.
Right. Then again, I suppose it's part of the theme. What with the mirror we saw earlier trying to show us what we will become, what we now are, I suppose.
The acceptance of time passing.
I suppose. Personally, I'd rather not live in a shithole, though.
Well, like I said earlier, clerics will find ways to stay as close to their angels and their tenets as much as they can. And I can hardly think of a more powerful reminder of your commitment to the acceptance of time passing than to watch it pass and the effect it has on the world around you.
Quite. Or they could have invested in a window or something to see their moon god, but either way works, I suppose.
Suppose you don't need to see it to know it's there. Or perhaps the way the moon worked with Elneus Perhaps it did something to this place that changed it. Or made it seem a new light or something. I suppose it doesn't matter what it looks like if you're down here. The time passes all the same.
Perhaps.
I look to the ceiling. Is there any... Can we see the ceiling?
Yeah. Well, you might be struggling a little bit, but yeah.
Looking for any marks in the ceiling, any holes, anything that's like a discernible. Something the light might pass through at certain points, angles.
Okay, give me a perception check. You have to make it with disadvantage because you are non-dark vision.
The spiders are helping her.
That is true.
A 13.
A 13. And you're looking for light sources?
I'm looking for holes in the ceiling, like gills, you know, things that look like they could produce light at the right angle, if not right now.
Yeah, nothing like that at all. No windows, no holes, no shutters, you know, rudimentary or any other way. There does seem to have been a very long time ago some way to light this place, or maybe there were sconces in the I forget what they're called, but those old, very rudimentary looking chandeliers that maybe were made of iron that you'd maybe leave candles in throughout the day.
Candelabra.
A normal candelabra. But yeah, nothing that really kind of suggests that there is any way to light this because, well, actually, let's have each of you make me a check, and you can make a check. Let's have Cirrus make a religion check. Jildan, some sort of wisdom based check as well, I think. I don't know which one. Make me a wisdom check. Thrak can make me an investigation check, and Sierra religion check as well.
What are we looking for?
This isn't that you're looking for something. I'm just going to see if you can all kind of come to a conclusion. Going to give you something.
I rolled a 7.
Rolled a 9. Oh my gosh.
I got a natural
Rolls.
29.
And I rolled a natural 1 for a 9.
Wow.
It's not real. It's not really that great. I guess while they're wandering around, maybe Thrak, you can come to a conclusion if you'd like, if you care about what they're talking about, while they're trying to figure out why this place looks this way. But does Thrak care?
No. We're on a time limit.
Alright, forget it.
Like, I would just be walking straight to the next door.
Yeah, okay, great. Seer has sort of started edging towards the next corridor that leads into a chamber over to the right, we'll call it. I don't know if you have really a sense of direction up on this mountain yet either.
What's in the middle of this room before I leave? Can I see it?
Yeah, it's a
This
giant
thing?
stone supporting column that's covered in more of those sort of celestial symbols and constellations.
Just nothing else. Okay. Alright, then I follow.
Not a dial or a twisty thing.
All right, yeah. Move yourselves into the next chamber if you want, over on the right there. And I'll tell you where you end up. Now, as you move into this one, you do recognize 2 more chambers coming off of this one. A much larger chamber to the north of you, and a slightly smaller chamber to the south, which looks like looks like I moved the map at some point, which is going to undo me. With all of these little beds in, very, very simple looking beds. As you move through into this next chamber, and let me just move these for my own OCD's sake. I think I moved the whole map when I was panicking about Thrak moving into the other thing, and I went to click on something.
I've basically ruined the entire campaign. And then also I was like, yeah, I don't care.
Yeah,
And
no.
I was like,
I
yeah,
don't.
great.
I don't care. You're fine. You so the first chamber that you moved into over
Hates me,
here,
dude.
the much larger chamber that you moved into, actually feels a little, to anybody who might recognize it, like a bit of a chapel. There are faded tapestries that are around the room that sort of seem like they depict visions. They look like they belong to different eras of time, like some seem much older than others, and they fill the entire room. They aren't like hung very neatly and placed very purposefully. They seem like they're just kind of like thrown up and covered all over this thing. Some of them are hanging awkwardly, some of them hanging flat and flush against the walls, some just sort of hovering above you, hanging down. It's very kind of haphazard and very it's almost like when you walk into one of those like dive bars and they just have stuff thrown up over all the walls, as opposed to if you were to walk into like Notre Dame or something and they have like all of these depictions of Christ and the cross and things. This is like a crazy room. This room has another column at the center which is covered in some of the tapestries, but underneath you can see that there are lots of different constellations and etchings again. And coming off of this room is the room with a bunch of little very simple looking, basic looking beds. They're really just a few planks of wood thrown together, hay and straw that looks like it has just sat there forever. All of the beds here seem to be kind of unmade and chaotic. They aren't placed very even I've placed them on the map there probably much more neatly than they actually present in this room. It's like a teenager's bedroom. All of the bits and things, maybe a sheet and
A bottle of Axe spray.
yeah, there's a lynx in the corner, but there really isn't like much stuff in here. Most rooms, and especially kind of rooms that would be bunks or dorms that would have multiple people sleeping in them, would have a storage thing, and there isn't one in this place. It's just the bed. A few more tapestries on the walls. No, again, sources of light, no old sconces, no windows, no holes or anything that might let light in. Ventilation in this place was probably an absolute nightmare. The rooms continue to be very dusty. No sense of anything really in here. In the previous room, there is something that looks a bit like a stone altar that probably had a lot more candles on it at one point, but has been left with only a handful of candles and a couple of sticks of long since gone out incense. There's a very, very slight scent of incense to this place in general as well. But that is about it as you wander through.
What are these moon tables? Are those
There are depictions all over this place of
the moon?
the moon.
So these ones in particular don't have any special importance.
No. Again, this is more the map that I've got to show you the idea of this place. As opposed to it being a really well masoned, perfectly placed moon, there's probably just like the most basic etching, like a child's drawing on the wall of a moon. It is kind of haphazard and crazy to move through this place. It certainly doesn't even feel as rudimentary as the kind of almost sort of Nordic Viking, Old Norse style of the Moon Voriel temple, with that very brusque kind of jagged approach to symbology. This is just like it's borderline chaos in some of these rooms, the way that they've scratched into the walls. You get more of a sense of those, like, you know, like when someone goes crazy in a movie and they just like scratch, I don't know, just craziness into the walls with a piece of charcoal. It's almost like that, but I wouldn't quite put it on that level. It's closer to that than what this map is depicting.
Right. Are there any personal effects strewn about?
No,
Anything
none.
belonging to people?
No, it's very strange that there's nothing. You wouldn't even know whose bed was whose. It doesn't seem like it's been personalized in any way. Each of the beds in here looks like either someone came in and cleaned this place up, but it doesn't feel like that. It does feel more like it was just like they woke up and left the room immediately. There's no sense of personalization to each of these things. Either someone came in and took everything that was personalized in any way, or they had absolutely no sense of personalization in this, you know, bunk bedroom.
Aside from the spear, which is our task, which we were told was here by a mirror deity, and would I have heard of anything else, perhaps, so this place might keep or covet any relics?
Give me a religion check.
Okay. A 23.
23. I don't know if you've really heard anything about this place. Really. The fact that the angel's spear was at least the last place that the angel was aware of being told of where it was. No angels can see this or know the location of this spear. They just absolutely, they cannot do it no matter how hard they try. But it was aware that this was the last place that it was known to be in terms of its knowledge, being an angel of knowledge. The way that the monks here, they really wouldn't covet anything. I don't think. If they did, it would most likely have been a sort of a knowledge of their own, the insight to what their angel Elneus is providing them. It's possible that they would have the only real things that they would probably covet would be things like the tapestries or the depictions that they've sort of etched into the walls of any visions that they might have had. But I think instead of it really providing you this check with an idea of what items they would covet, you get the information that they actually wouldn't covet any items. These are monks that spent time outside of their bodies, almost in your trance-like state. Some of them, potentially elven, would have been in that sort of state. They spend time communing with their angel by transcending their body and being in this dreamlike state and receiving visions of potential futures. And you're, I think, maybe starting to sort of piece together as you move through this place that the haphazard way that they moved through this place, or the way that they stayed and lived in this place, was more to do with the fact that they probably would look crazy to us. The way that they didn't spend a lot of time being bothered about getting sleep or tidying up and fixing, we've got a leaky tap, we've got a broken statue, because it was imperative to them to seek more vision, seek more knowledge, and seek transcendence.
What does it smell like in here?
Old dust and a faint sense of incense.
Right. I
would
rip
keep
off a
moving.
duvet and follow the track.
Yeah, I'll
We
follow along
must.
as well.
Do we
Must be
feel
quick.
cold?
one of you feels very cold because you're still under the effects of
It's me.
the thing.
In general.
It is not absolutely freezing. Thrak, hold there. In fact, actually, all of you place yourselves in this room for a second. It isn't absolutely freezing, but you are on a mountain top, and you're inside of a mountain, so it would certainly have it would be pretty cool in here. But it is a lot more temperate than maybe you would expect. In terms of where you are in the world, you're even more northern, and at potentially a higher altitude. I think you are at a higher altitude than Vorial and Moon. But this whole place and the mountainscape outside is not covered in snow and didn't hit you with a deep freezing. The landscape and the ground was very dusty. It would almost look, I think, like you were on the moon, is what it would look like. And there wasn't any snow and there wasn't any ice on the caps of the mountains. But it is certainly very cool. It's colder rather than warmer. However, as you begin to move through this room and head into the next chamber, you move out of that bedroom back into the sort of the tapestry filled altar chamber. You recognize a pretty huge room, one of the biggest rooms that you've been in so far ahead of you, and as you begin to move away from the room filled with tapestries and into this next room, it actually does heat up in here. There is a strange sensation that courses through you in particular, Jildan. A familiar one, but one that now you reject, a tickling of arcane energy, the sense of mischief and the sense of evil that washes over you. Behind you, as you begin to move through this place, there are sudden bursts of flame. Appearing and stepping forward in a burst of flame with a sort of echoing growl, maybe one howls. These fearsome sort of monstrous dogs covered in this short red-brown fur, eyes glowing red, markings on their bodies, on their fangs and tongues, this sort of sense of soot and a reek of sulfurous smoke as these hellhounds manifest within the room, snarling, snapping. I will need some initiatives from you, please.
I told you.
Ah. There's that Wheel of Fortune coming around again from...
What? How do I have a
Unbelievable.
-3 and I roll better than all of you? That's absurd.
I rolled a
Absolutely.
natural 1 for a 5.
Unbelievable. Elsewhere, for the first time, a sound echoing down the hallways as you hear Anaware laugh. And she manifests two hellhounds.
Orcish, how does your initiative rolling thing work now that you have it, that boon? Do you have advantage or...
No. It's an extra 1d8.
Ah, okay.
Oh, wait, you mean the boom thing?
Yes.
My first attack, I get advantage.
Okay.
Okay. Everyone's on there? Alright, first hellhound. One of them appears kind of behind you to the left, one of them appears kind of behind you to the right. These things are huge, brutish looking dogs. Weirdly, just alive looking. It's a strange sensation. Everything you've seen for a long time has been kind of a horrible undead dragon or a lizard or, you know, maybe a couple of elves that revealed, oh, they were undead. You saw one stag and you had a moment of solace from the death of the world, but these snarling demonic beasts appear in front of you, different from the undead creatures that have been chasing you. These things are imbued with flame and life as they snap and bark. One, as you sort of immediately turn and see one, it opens its mouth, sucks in a breath, and is going to attempt to launch some flame breath at you. This is a cone, a 15-foot cone. So let's have it rush over here and see who we can get in this thing. That looks like Seer, Jildan, and Cirrus need to make me a dexterity saving throw, please.
Oh, good.
A 16.
2.
A 14.
Okay, so Jildan, you fail.
Yep.
So you'll take the full amount of this, but the other two will only take half of 19 fire damage from this thing as this flame kind of rushes out from this creature. It barks, but as it opens its mouth, barking at you, a gout of flame rushes forward, the sense of heat picking up in the room. It snaps and bites at Seer, but as the end of its turn, it is Jildan's turn.
Okay, just to let you know, I have evasion, so that didn't hit me if I succeeded.
Okay.
Show yourself, you hussy!
Scream into the into the corridor beyond, and then I cast my flaming sphere once again. In fact, for flavor, it never left. It zips through the corridors like all the way towards us, and then barrels into the one I see in front of me. So that is a dexterity saving throw. Wait. This one always confuses me. I can ram it into things, and I think that's got a different rule, so let me just double check.
Yeah.
If you ram it into a creature, they should make the saving throw against the sphere's damage, and the sphere stops moving. Right, yeah, so a dex save. And it is the instant damage.
Okay. A 20.
Cool, classic, right?
It's not a natural 20, just a 19.
No, it's just a... Takes half of 7 damage.
Okay, and that's fire damage?
Yes.
Okay. You can place it wherever you want.
Arcana is rammed, so it stops. Oh,
Okay.
I guess
Yeah,
it-
but I
it
mean,
just
you tell me
is-
where it
Yeah,
rammed.
yeah, yeah. Yes.
Yeah, this flaming sphere strikes this hellhound. The flames of the hellhound and the flames of the sphere kind of combine, a burst of arcane light. And then, is that the end of your turn?
And then I step backwards towards the hallway. I want to see if I can spot Anawari, so I'm moving to the entrance of the other hall.
Yeah, give me a perception check with disadvantage because there's not any light in there.
It's an 18.
She ain't in there. Chuckling from somewhere, echoing off of the walls.
I knew
The
she was in here somewhere.
other hellhound rushes up to you, Cirrus. Again, sort of going in for a bite, but as it opens its mouth, this gout of flame rushes out. Cirrus and Thrak need to make me dex saving throws.
I'm real good at that.
That's a
7.
fail. You'll take 18. Thrak,
14.
you make it, so you take half. Fire
Nice.
damage as this flame rushes out as this huge beast bites and snaps at Cirrus as it approaches, the flames washing over the both of you. Yeah?
I have a question.
Mhm.
I am resistant to fire damage. Am I still resistant to fire damage in this body?
Yeah, your body is still resistant to fire damage, yeah. So you still take half.
Okay. Half of
Uh,
18?
Half of 18, yeah.
Okay.
If you had made the save, it would be half and then half again.
Okay.
But you failed, so you
note
just take the
two.
resistance.
Note to see, this sphere will feel blisteringly hot, and you will know that if you stay in there any longer than you must absolutely have to, then you will unfortunately feel pain.
Understood.
Sirius, it's your turn.
Yes. Okay. These are hellhounds, yeah.
Yes.
I'm gonna reach out and cast Inflict Wounds on the one that's right in front of me. Lay my hands on him.
Okay.
Okay, 10. So
Wow, natural 1
cool.
is actually what that is. I think,
Yeah.
and this wouldn't normally happen, so touching these things doesn't actually burn you, but I think it does. I think that's what that
Yeah.
will be this
Okay.
time. Roll me 2d6 and take that much fire damage. Again, you're resistant to it, but that's what happens here. As you reach out for this thing, it just kind of Johnny Storm flame-ons for a moment, and your hand just heats up, superheats, like you've just put it on the side of a hot kettle. And yeah, you whip it back, taking 4 fire damage from that thing on that fail, rather than having you roll on my normal table. Okay, that's your action. That's a miss, but a critical miss.
Yep. Just gonna see if there's anything else I can do. There's like 400 things now because we're level 9, so I'm just double checking. Before
And
I
he
end
wants
my
to
turn.
be level 15.
I literally
That was mostly
no
a joke.
idea. I think that's it for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Level 14 Thrak.
Oh, that's right. I am level 14. Correct.
That's a joke from before the stream. None of you were watching, but we made a joke that he got 5 extra levels just so he'd shut up asking me about leveling up.
Yeah, it's pretty. I don't even know why. Like, you can tell by the way I'm dressed that I do not care at all about roleplay or story. I'm
Yeah, say
literally
that next
just
week
here
when you
to
have
do
lots of
combat.
green paint.
Okay, listen. I cannot control hurricanes, unfortunately.
I feel like Thrak probably can.
But maybe if I was level 14, I could. I'm gonna move down here, and I'll just. I know I've had all day to think about this. I'm gonna try a firebolt. I have no idea. I don't think this is gonna work, but I'm gonna try a wee little firebolt on the yellow hellhound.
Well, as you maybe perhaps notice that Jordan's flaming sphere perhaps did not hurt it as much as it may have done
Oh.
because of the flames and things.
What's that thing they do in Critical Role, Myre, when they're talking like that?
Meta pigeons.
We need a meta pigeon of our own. A legally
Meta
distinct meta
pigeon.
toucan.
I mean,
And what about Meta Chicken?
A meta chicken.
A chicken in the distance says, "Blink, you can't do that." Blink."
That's a bad idea.
Leah does do a really good chicken,
She does
actually.
indeed.
Delicious. She
Um,
does cook a delicious chicken.
Yeah, I'll do magic missile, I guess. My own idea.
Sure.
I'll just do a level 1 cast of magic missile, which, if you were curious about what that might sound like, I'm just droning on so that I can get to the sound.
Definitely doesn't sound like. Have you found the sound yet?
Yes, it sounds like this. I think it's 4. Let's
Okay.
see. 3. 3 darts. They hit the yellow guy.
Okay, how much?
And it is 11 points of force damage. Yeah.
11. Yeah, these things hit this creature. The darts striking the dog as it kind of looks back at what is instinctively looks back at what is dealing damage to it. You deal 11 points of damage.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of your turn.
That is the end of my turn.
All right,
Yes.
Sia's turn.
Okay, upon seeing this flaming spear, I'm going to use my staff to vault over and past the Hellhound to the side here, of flavor, of course. And then I'm going to use that self-same staff to beat down on this Hellhog. So I'm going to use a two-handed strike with my quarterstaff, like so. For a 22 to hit.
That hits.
Bam. And then I'm going to use my extra attack on it again. So
That's 15
bam for
AC.
15 AC.
Yeah,
Alright,
because
so
I know you have
14 does not
1,000
hit.
attacks coming in, so I'll just let you. You just tell me the damage at the end at this point.
Okay, alright. And then I go into a flurry of blows, spending a key point. And let's go for 10, doesn't hit. And 11 doesn't hit. So 12 points of bludgeoning damage because I roll very badly.
+8 to all those rolls, by the way. Highest was 14.
So I rolled a 2 and a 3.
I honestly thought you would destroy these things in like one round. I was like, yeah, it's all good. We can probably squeeze in a quick combat. I know Leah's got to get out of here. And you immediately hit it with fire damage, burned your own hand, and missed every punch. So players will always fuck it up.
Always fuck it up.
All right.
Hey,
is that the end of your
we
turn?
are busy saving the world, okay?
Are you?
You've gotta save.
Is that what you're doing? Is that the end of your turn, Seer?
That will be the end of my turn. Yes.
Okay. Hellhound, let's see if we can recharge its breath. It is going to exhale breath of fire at you. Make me a dex save, please. Yeah.
Me? Dex save. Okay.
Yeah.
Just watch these things kill us, by the way.
Imagine. You guys are really hard to kill
save.
now. All of you
Natural
have
20.
the orc thing. Oh, natural 20. All right. Well, you
Wait,
only
we
take
do?
half.
Do we? We're not linked that way, are we? Our pools aren't.
Earlier on I gave you all of your abilities.
Yes, yes. Sorry, no, I was thinking about the other death thing. The orc.
Yeah, you have a
relenting.
thing where if you're reduced to 0, you remain at 1 HP, but you do have to start making con saves or you get jettisoned from your own body.
Yeah.
Okay. It is now Jilden's turn.
This time, my flaming sphere transforms flavor into.
A
This is
pony.
Moonbeam. So, I don't know if there's anything we can do with the fact that everything around here is moon themed. But, yes, I cast Moonbeam. That is a 5-foot radius, 40-foot high cylinder. And that is a Constitution save. I cast this one on the one next to Seer.
Okay. Yeah, when you cast Moonbeam in this room, all of the constellations light up. The etchings reflect the Moonbeam. The candles on the altar light with radiant flame, and the room doesn't like fully illuminate, but it's like a kid's nightlight or something. You get this kind of like reflection in the constellations and the etchings sort of twinkling through the tapestries above you, and then this column of death rains down on a hellhound. What is it again?
Con save.
A con save.
Wait, is it its turn next? Or is that the other one?
No, it's the other one.
Wait, let me check. When it enters the spell's area for the first time or starts its turn there. So I think it will be when it starts its turn rather than now.
Yeah.
All right, well, it's rolled a 6.
Okay.
Okay, end of your turn.
Yeah, you might as well have the damage, I guess, so that you've got it. That's 12 radiant damage.
Okay. The other hellhound, I'm gonna try and. I think the other one's just gonna try and bite you, Cirrus.
Okay.
See, what's your AC?
17.
20 is
Oh,
gonna
no,
hit.
it's 16 now.
A 16.
Oh, okay.
Okay. You take 6 piercing damage and 4 fire damage. You can half that fire damage to 2. It continues to growl at you as it bites, but it is your turn to counter.
I'm gonna draw my sword and try to chop its head off,
All right.
because I'm over this thing now. 15.
That hits.
8 slashing damage.
Yeah, unfortunately, you don't chop its head off, but you do
Dang.
slice a chunk of flesh off of its flank as it kind of tries to avoid you, howling, flaming, and you deal 8 slashing damage to it. Okay. Bonus action, movement.
I'm just checking how everyone's doing. I'm gonna quickly cast.
Doing well, thanks.
How's everybody doing here? I'm
I'm
gonna
so glad
cast
you
a
asked.
little healing word at Jilden for 8.
Jordan does
Jordan.
not protest.
Okay, Thrak, your turn.
For once, actually.
Yes.
I
This
know.
time I will not take 10 minutes, even though I'm the last person to go. I'm going to cast Ray of Frost on the yellow boy, the yellow good boy.
He's my good time boy, my toy soldier. What does he say? What's that quote?
That's the one. So Ray of Frost, I've never cast that spell before, but oh, there's like an attack. Is it 13? Is that my attack?
So
That'd
that
be
was
attack.
a 20 plus 5 plus your proficiency, so that seems about right. Your spell attack is
Okay. But I do
intelligence.
get... Now, I have a boon. Gain
Okay.
advantage on your first strike in combat. Now, I cast Magic Missile already. But this is my first ability that requires me to do an attack roll.
Oh, yeah, is that what your thing is? You always get
My thing
advantage.
is, yeah. I
Yeah.
get advantage on my first strike in combat.
And yeah, you have advantage on this.
Excellent. Okay, so we'll do it again. 25.
25 hits.
Okay. 3 cold damage, baby. I
Which,
got a 1 and a 2 on
No.
2d8.
Which one were you
Let's
aiming at?
Go. Yellow.
This is exclusively because Leah was like, I need to get up early.
It turns to frost and dice. Excellent.
Okay, you do 3 cold damage to that one.
Which table story show has had the most lucky rolls?
Kingmakers, by far.
Kingmakers.
And then we have to counter it with Quura, of course.
Yeah, to be
Yeah,
fair, this is a lot
you
of
3 were
Kingmakers.
all in it. Oh, you 4 were all in it.
I was
Great.
in it too. Don't forget me. I was in 1 or 2 of the episodes at one point.
Everything.
Okay. Well,
We were borrowing our luck from this show.
No,
I know. Everything comes at a cost. Everything comes
Everything
at a
Debt
comes
cost.
at a cost.
magic.
It was the
Stop.
debt magic.
You debt magic so that you can save that little universe. But
Yeah.
what about this
Yeah.
one?
This one's not meant to be saved, clearly.
Seer, it's your turn.
Alright, okay. So let's try this again then, shall we? I use my staff and I swing down for a 10 to hit, extra attack, a 13 to hit. I then go flurry of blows, burning the key point for a 23 to hit with my punch, thank God! For a 5 points bludgeoning damage, and then again for 14 to hit, so only 5 points of bludgeoning damage after
God.
4 attacks.
Okay, you want to do anything else?
Cry internally,
Crying.
try and cry again. Then I'm going to use my action surge and do this whole thing over again because 18 to hit for 12 points of bludgeoning damage,
Oh, there we go.
and then 26 to hit for 10 points of bludgeoning damage.
There we go.
Okay, and then the moon damage hits this thing and burns it into nothing as it is destroyed, and it vanishes. It actually vanishes completely. You see it kind of burned away, and it kind of explodes, but not like in a burst of danger for anyone standing nearby. But it kind of just turns to ash and burns away, as if being kind of unsummoned, almost like returned to the plane from which it was summoned by Anaware. The first Hellhound here is destroyed by the moonbeam, and it's Jilden's turn.
The moonbeam shoots across the room to land on the other one, which will
Okay.
take the damage pretty much immediately since it's his turn next.
Yep.
It's 15 radiant damage.
Okay. Are you ending your turn?
Yes, but I'm looking around the room since this moonbeam persists just to check the effects are
Yeah.
still occurring.
It is. Yeah, the moonbeam is constantly lighting up any any constellations or any of the etchings in the room.
I'm greedily trying to take in as much as I can whilst also looking for Anawari.
Yeah. The Hellhound here is going to try and bite Cirrus again. I think it's got its target. On a 21, it's going to hit and deal 4 piercing damage and 7 fire damage to you. It does take the moonbeam damage, and it kind of burns away at this creature. It yelps and tries to snap and bite at the moonbeam unsuccessfully. It is your turn, Cirrus.
Okay. I'm gonna hit this thing with my sword again.
Slice its head off.
T-Pain shows up.
Hey, Jill-I-Am.
July Dan.
We need a remix.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
For those of you confused, Jilda has some sort of thing that makes her sound strange
Yeah, her
and
voice
echoey
is getting
modulated
messed
every now
up
and then.
by the subtle effects of Elnea. And what are you doing, Cirrus? Apart from being
I'm hitting-
starstruck.
I was like, holy cow, T-Pain is here right now. 8
8 is a
to
miss.
not hit.
All right, let's see
Okay,
if Frank can do it.
wait,
Unless, oh no, you got a
wait,
bonus. Yeah.
I'm gonna heal myself
Okay.
quickly before I continue. 'Cause, yep.
You quietly heal yourself while Thrank takes his turn.
I do 7 cold damage with Ray of Frost.
Oh, fuck it, that'll do. It's got 8 HP. Seer punches it at the same time because Seer's going to get a hit in for sure on his next turn. There's no way he would miss all of them.
All of his attacks.
As
There's no possible
Seer
way.
punches this thing, Thrank
But if he
launches
does,
a
we just lose.
13.
ray of frost.
Okay, 22, there we go.
And the Hellhound is banished from this plane or Anaware's control, and there is at this point another kind of echoing chuckle from down the hallway, echoing off of the walls, the moonbeam reflecting some of the constellations around you as we hear Anaware. And that's where we end our session, she says. Thank you so much for playing, players, and thank you so much for watching, everybody. There is a new show on Friday called Non-Canon, which I think you'll enjoy, he says. It's a show that I had 2 weeks to build. PB and Wax showed up at my house at 4 a.m., dragged me out of bed and said, you've got 2 weeks to make a new show. It's called Non-Canon. It starts on Friday at 3 p.m. UK time, Eastern. 3 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. UK time. Wow. This is how tired I am. Please tune in for that. If I'm still conscious, it'll be on. Thank you for watching. Bye.